What is going on, Geeks and Gamers? We're here. We are live. No drunk 3PO today. He decided to go to another country, something like that. No Jeremy today because he needed to do something. I'm not sure exactly what, but we've got the next best thing, and really, it's an upgrade, to be honest with you. We got Chris Gore from Film Threat here on Geeks and Gamers Daily. What's up, Chris?
I'm waking up. It's early for me. I'm pre-coffee, but I'm happy to be here because if I wasn't here on the show, I would just be watching the show and I would be waking up, getting coffee. Now I have to actually interact and discuss topics, but I'm looking forward to it. So, cause I'm always in the chat, kind of opinionated about a few things.
That's true. And sometimes you make typos that end up becoming memes that sound like racial slurs.
Right.
You never know what might happen. Yes, exactly. Madam Web is a movie for hot chikes. I believe that's what you said, something like that.
Right. It's hot chikes. No, I'll tell you exactly, just to clear the air here. I was talking about guys who have a birthday month. Men don't have birthday months. Women, chicks have birthday months. This is my birthday month. It's my birthday week. You know how women like really, really celebrate their birthday to an annoying degree. And I didn't realize that Drunk 3PO and Beardo, apparently, birthday month is like a big deal to them. So I don't know. That was interesting, fun fact to learn. But shout out to Drunk 3PO. I love the guy. I hope he's having fun in Vancouver.
Yeah, I don't know what you do in Vancouver other than like I don't know what's there to do in Canada. Not really interested in going there, but I hope they're having a good time. Yeah, birthday. Most guys are hoping that people kind of forget they even have a birthday.
Yeah.
And that it just kind of glosses over that day. I don't understand why women have birthday months when it feels like they're always bitching about how old they fucking get anyway. Right. So I don't really understand that concept either, but hey, it is what it is. But yes, Chris is here. We were just talking. The reason we're a minute late is because we were talking about Dune Part 2 because Chris is going to see it tomorrow, you son of a bitch.
I'm going to see Dune Part 2 tomorrow. We'll be talking about it on our Wednesday live stream. But also, Danica and I, Comic Book Girl 19, last night we went to see the 1984 Dune by David Lynch. Is actually re-released in theaters. You can see it today. It's through Fathom Events. And I still have my Dune Sandworm. I bought this when I was in high school, dude. It's a Dune Sandworm from the 1984 Dune, which is a perfect pairing with my popcorn bucket.
Does it go in there? Yeah.
It's a popcorn bucket for Dune Part 2, and then I've got the 1984 Dune Sandworm. So there you go. I don't know. It could be a whole thing. So
that's kind of wild. The fact that you still have that, for one, but two, that thing is just, they had to know exactly what they were doing when they made that popcorn bucket.
You will get one. You will get one. I'm telling you, you're going to see it at the theater. You're going to be
where do you have to go? Where do I have to go for? Is AMC or
AMC? It's AMC. They've got them for sale. It's $25 and it comes with popcorn. So you're technically only paying $15 for a bucket, and it's so useful. You can use it for Comic Book Girl 19 told me she would use hers for raffles. You put raffle tickets in it, and then you stick your hand in, pull out a ticket.
I don't know how often you would need to use that, but it sounds like a good idea for Danica. I am really looking forward to Dune Part 2. Almost every little clip or whatever that we've seen, that like 5-minute extended sequence with the sandworm that they released was just like amazing. So I really like the first one. I actually kind of like Dune 1984 as well. Right. As weird as it is, as like weird as we were for like effects during that time, like the rectangular, like all the parallelogram shield shit. It just looked so off, but I still kind of enjoy that movie a lot, actually.
Yeah, well, you can see it in a theater today. I think today's the last day you can check it out. So I was there. I couldn't believe how packed it was. It was really packed with Dune nerds, if that's a thing. Like, yeah, there's definitely Dune nerds. But I hear from Alan. Alan Ing actually already saw Dune Part 2, and it's really good and dispels all the rumors. It's not this Chani bait and switch. It's Paul Atreides is the lead. It's not like some girl boss. I mean, she's basically accurate to the book. She's a warrior and she's dedicated to Paul. They added some extra conflict between the two of them, which I think is interesting, but it doesn't really change it all that much. So there is one big change that may or may not bug you. I think it's only going to bug fans of the book.
So yeah, when it comes to all the Chani stuff, I really think that was a quote that was given by Denis Villeneuve that was kind of spun a little bit. To me, what he was saying was that you get a little bit of a perspective shift at some point, and you get to see the change in Paul through Chani a little bit, as opposed to just being based on Paul. You get to see how he's changing and how he's like, even though he doesn't want to become what he is becoming, type of thing. You're seeing that, but it's like Chani's perspective. That's how you're viewing it, as opposed to her becoming the main character. That's not what he was saying at all, at least when I read the quote.
Yeah, the only complaint I've heard about Dune Part 2 is it's too short. It's like 2 hours and 40 minutes.
God.
People are saying it should have been longer because I mean, whatever. That's a weird complaint, but yeah, I always thought Dune should just be a 12 episode like HBO Max series, like 12 hours, maybe 2 seasons. But it's, we'll see. There's that Sci-Fi Channel miniseries you can still see with William Hurt. That's actually on YouTube. You can find it. Dune Sci-Fi Channel. Check that out. So.
Someone says, I survived an extra 5 months. Do not spoiling the movie. I'm not losing it now. Bye.
Wait, no, we're not gonna spoil it.
Well, first of all, we're not going to spoil it. But two, the book has been out for fucking like 70 years or something. Like,
no, 1965. 1965 it was published.
Yeah, that's
been around.
Sorry, 60 years. Like, I don't think we're going to spoil anything here.
That also, Dune 1984 exists, and also the Dune Sci-Fi Channel miniseries exists. But I'm not talking spoilers. I mean, even when I talked to Alan, he told me a couple things, but not spoilers. I'm going in cold. I can't wait. I cannot wait.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I'm seeing it a little bit early. I'm seeing it on Sunday. I'm not as fancy as you. I don't get to see it tomorrow, but I do get to see it Sunday in IMAX, which is going to be fucking awesome.
Cool.
Alabamian for 5. Good morning, gentlemen. A pick for Ryan to make fun of Jeremy with. Hail the 199. What is this? Is this Jeremy like
Adam Sandler? I think
it looks like Bobby Boucher, but I don't know if it's actually him. And who's in the background there?
X-Ray Girl. Is that X-Ray Girl or Krista?
It's like the picture's so small. I don't know if I can really tell, but either way. Thank you, the Alabamian. Gary's Beard Dingleberries for 5. Ryan, you're the expert. Are furries vegetarians? I hope so. If not, then it's wrong on multiple levels. I don't fucking know what furries eat other than other furry dick, probably. So yeah. That's about the extent of my knowledge on that. Filthy Casual for 5. The stream looks like Ryan is talking to an aged up mirrored version of himself. LOL, JK, you're awesome, Frank. I hope Dune and its bucket are great.
Well, Dune 1984 and the bucket apparently go together, but I do have touch up my appearance on StreamYard at maximum. So that's the full. No, I'm joking. But okay. I just thought that'd be a funny thing to say.
There is that's a new feature for stream. I'm going to try to do it right now. We'll see if it changes
right
anything.
Now. Let's see.
All right, this is with nothing. Now I'm clicking it. How does it look? Does it look different?
You look exactly the same. I don't know. Maybe it's.
What if I crank it all the way up?
All the way up. I don't notice a difference.
It change anything? All right. I can take that 2 way. I'm going to turn it off now.
Yeah.
Anything change?
Yeah, I can't tell. My eyesight's not that great, anyways.
Well, listen, I can take that 2 ways. One, there's nothing even a fucking sophisticated AI program can do to improve my appearance. Or 2, there's absolutely nothing for them to fix. So I can take that 1 of 2 ways.
That's the way to take it.
Thunderstrike for 10. Yesterday, my son couldn't pick between his Star Wars and Spider-Man pajamas. He asked his sister, who proceeded to loudly crap her diaper. I said, Star Wars it is.
Oh, that's good.
There you go.
Oh, that's a good one.
Thoughts on fitness with Nigel, member for 9 months. This is terrific programming, guys. I personally can't imagine there being no Geeks and Gamers daily. It's become an essential part of our consciousness. Thanks. Hey, the show must go on. Show must go on. Tobias for 10. Figure might like the story. I completely forgot I had today off. Panicked. Didn't even realize I had President's Day till I got to work. At least I'm not missing G&G with Ryan. Well, that's a fun way to find out that you don't have to go to work. That's for sure.
Yeah, I didn't even realize today was President's Day, but here we are.
Yeah, we don't really do that like day off thing here.
Yeah,
You know what I mean? Other than like for Christmas, but that's not because we get the day off from work. It's because you were doing family shit. But
right.
yeah. So congrats everybody that's got President's Day off. Shout out to you guys, all the government workers out there, teachers, everybody like that's probably got President's Day off. So shout out to everybody. Um, you know what this day, this whole Monday day off thing was supposed to be a big deal for some of the movies that are in theaters right now because they get kind of an extended weekend. And you'd think that between Valentine's Day opening, President's Day Monday, this long 6-day holiday extended weekend, that might have been able to do something for Madam Web. Unfortunately, Chris, that is not the case.
Oh
Madam
no.
Web, as bad as we thought it was going to be, as big of a box office bomb as we thought it would be, holy shit, it has gone worse than anyone could have possibly imagined. 13% from the critics. Right now, 55% verified audience and 43% all audience. Maybe the biggest indicator is that there's only 500 verified ratings, which means nobody is going to see this movie, which is pretty easy to tell when we look at the box office. Madam Web, a 6-day holiday frame, sitting at $26 million. It's normal, like opening weekend was like a $14 or $15 million 3-day opening weekend. This is abysmal on levels that we couldn't have even predicted before this. But if you've seen the movie, you can probably understand why this is happening.
Wow, Bob Marley, One Love made 51 million.
Yes. Yes.
Crazy. And Alan said, I didn't see the movie because I hated the trailer. And the trailer played like since last summer. I was so please open so I never have to see this trailer. He said, Alan said he couldn't understand the movie and wish it had subtitles.
Because of the Jamaican accent, man.
The accents are so thick. He's like, what did this person just say? But Madam Web doing that bad. I will say that it's so bad at certain point. It's just so dumb. You're like, I was laughing during a lot of parts of the movie, especially at the very end. No spoilers, but the end reveal is so cringe. The whole audience burst out laughing. When you're inappropriately laughing, I think that just tells you. But kudos to Dakota Johnson for taking it. So her circuit interviews are hilarious. Like she was great. She doesn't give an F. She doesn't care.
It's kind of tough to tell whether that's like just her or whether it's really that she knew this was just going to be a fucking nightmare. So she decided to go out like that.
Right.
It's funny though that you do have some people in the media defending like, oh, well, she doesn't actually think it's bad. She doesn't actually say this. She didn't actually say that. It's funny that the reason that they blamed the Marvels for failing was because, well, we didn't have the usual thing out there. It didn't get promoted this way or that way or whatever, right? You didn't have the cast members out there promoting it. Now they're blaming the failure of Madam Web on the fact that Dakota Johnson was able to go out there and talk about it. And people are just spinning her out of context. It's a joke. I did think a lot of the shit she said was funny. But to me, I think there's a lot of people that are actually upset about this movie legitimately. She fired her agent a week after the trailer dropped. Both her and Sydney Sweeney tagged Marvel Studios when they announced that they were going to be part of this movie because I don't think they understood what it actually was. I've heard things that other people that have been involved with this movie are very upset about how it's being received and are ready to like fucking go off on social media. This is legitimately a movie that might not make $100 million worldwide at the box office. Like that's an actual possibility at this point.
I think it's a foregone conclusion at this point. But Dakota Johnson, her whole attitude was, F it, it sucks, whatever. I mean, look, I've done junkets before, like back when I worked at G4. You can tell when the cast knows it's a good movie as opposed to when it's a bad movie. Conversely, if you've actually seen there's a ton of interviews with the cast of Dune Part 2. They're having a great time. They know the movie's good. They know the audiences are going to love it. They know that like the actual critics that are seeing it like it. That you can see them having fun in interviews. They're like Josh Brolin's weird poem to Timothée Chalamet, like the popcorn bucket, the Dune popcorn bucket thing, which was, the subject of an SNL sketch. I don't watch SNL, but I did watch the clip. So it's like, it's weird. So you're seeing this sort of sad junket of Madam Web, contrasted against, and you can just look up on YouTube. There's a ton of, and what's weird is I'm sitting here, why didn't freaking Film Threat get to interview the cast of Dune Part 2? Like the smallest, whatever YouTube channel I've like never heard of is just like, so you've got 26 views. You interviewed Denis Villeneuve. What is going on? So I don't know how these things happen, but whatever.
It is kind of crazy. Sometimes you'll see like some random woman that has 800 subscribers is interviewing Will Smith or something.
Right,
And it has no interaction and no views. I guess you just get your name on a list or something. I don't know. Now, I can't imagine a lot of those people would want to appear on, I don't know, Geeks and Gamers for an interview anyway. But you're right when it comes to the way it's felt. Now, it doesn't feel like the cast has any problem with each other. They just kind of, I feel like they kind of understand that this movie is a massive pile of shit. And the highlight of the entire thing was the red carpet. That was the highlight with Sydney Sweeney and Dakota Johnson. That's the best thing to come out of this movie, not anything on screen.
Oh my God, they're so hot. They should just start OnlyFans. That would be.
It would make more money than this movie. I can almost guarantee that. But we talked about a little bit before we even started. This is not kind of one of these big superhero failures we've seen in recent memory where it's like it's just so full of agenda and identity politics. It's just a good old-fashioned dog shit movie from like every aspect.
No, it's just plain bad, but there's really nothing particularly super woke about it. I mean, you can always read that stuff in. I think some people like just sort of see like everything that it looks a certain way as being woke. I don't see it that way. This thing is just terrible. But the reveal of Madam Web's costume, Dakota Johnson in the costume at the end, where she's kind of happy she's in the position she is. I don't know how she's like happy. She's Madam Web, which technically a person named a Madam, that implies a certain role for the women that work under her, but whatever, set that aside for a minute. Those cheesy 80s glasses, I was dying. I thought it was so hilarious. Like we just walked out like we couldn't believe what we saw. We're laughing. The 2-hour runtime. If this was 90 minutes, it could have been, 2 hours of that. Oh my God.
Well, like now when you see an hour and 50-minute runtime, you're like, okay, that's short. Like, that feels short for us now. And let's like current age. And so you see an hour and 50 minutes, you're like, okay, short. It didn't feel short. It felt like it went on and on and on and on. But yes, from the dialogue to the acting to the cinematography decisions to the audio dub, it felt like all of Ezekiel's lines were ADR.
Oh, like, yes, yeah. It was bad ADR, bad ADR. It didn't match. If you watch his mouth and you look, and a buddy of mine who's an editor actually was at the screening with us, and he's like, "Oh yeah, they changed a ton." So that movie changed in the edit room a lot.
Well, and they've actually said that. Dakota Johnson came out and said like a week ago or something. Actually, I randomly have it here. Dakota Johnson says Madam Web's script went through drastic changes after she signed on, and I can't even tell you what they were, the actress tells The Wrap. I think a lot of it was changed. Now, this is from the same crew that basically did Morbius. So to me, this movie is bad in the same way that Morbius is bad. It just feels like incompetence everywhere. Like I don't understand how they're continuing to make these movies. I think this spells bad news for Kraven the Hunter, because even if that movie is good somehow, I think people are just going to see what's in the Sony Spider-Man universe and be like, we're fucking done. Like, there's no reason to go see this shit.
Do you think they were building up to some sort of end game with all of these characters converging into one film? So Venom, Spider-Man, Madam Web, all the web girls.
The web girls.
Just like, no, I'm serious. Like, they seem to want to replicate Marvel, and Spider-Man does have, I would say Fantastic Four probably has the best in terms of like a rogues gallery of villains and sort of by extension other heroes that are in that world. But Spider-Man also has quite a few. Could you build up to some sort of end game event like Sinister Six and Spider-Man team with other spider people from multiverses and spider ladies? So
I like probably, But the problem is, if you don't have a Spider-Man anchoring it, people don't give a fuck about this stuff. So you
Right.
can't have for 5 years a Sony Spider-Man universe with no fucking Spider-Man and just making it about these random characters. You can't have a movie that takes place 20 years before current day that has 5 people with spider like something or other, whether it's the villain or the 4 heroines that have like spider powers, and not have a Spider-Man in the universe. It like none of it makes sense, and it's just not enough to keep people engaged unless you have peak top tier storytelling, and that just
Right.
is not happening across any of them. I
Although
don't like what's Venom 3 going to be at this. Who's gonna show up for Venom 3? I get a lot of people showed up for the first Venom. The second one did okay despite, when it was released, recovering from COVID, blah blah blah. But that second one was literally just the first one over again with a different villain. Who's going to show up for Venom 3? I don't know.
yeah, I don't think I ever even saw Venom 2. I just didn't care. But I did kind of like at the beginning of the movie how they had these like primitives that were covered in like red stained whatever and vines, which kind of reflected. But that was like the only thing I'm like, oh, that's a clever concept. I like that concept. But the thing is, this ultimately, if they made, because I grew up with a lot of bad TV that you don't even, is not even in your memory. I remember Sid and Marty Croft. Okay. They made a lot of bad Sigmund and the Sea Monster, Dr. Shrinker, and they had this TV show. It was god awful. It was a ripoff of Batman and Robin called Electra Woman and Dinah Girl. Okay. Terrible show. But if they had like begun Madam Web at the end of how this ended with like a bunch of Spider Girls, because let's be honest, when you go to a convention, I know you're recently at MegaCon,
Mhm.
and you see a woman wearing one of those unitards dressing like it's kind of hot. Let's can't lie. It's kind of hot. So when you
You mean when
saw
you see an attractive woman doing that, you mean?
yes, an attractive woman. Yes,
All
to be
right.
fair, an
Okay.
attractive woman. Um, but that's what when you look at it, I'm like, oh, that's a movie I would actually see, like some sort of Charlie's Angels like matriarch, right? Running this like the 3 different Spider Girls, and they've got all this stuff to do. Like it would have been incredibly stupid, but it could have been fun. Like, look, what's weird is can they make Charlie's Angels now? Can they make Charlie's Angels with like 3 women that are smoking hot that use their feminine wiles in ways to manipulate the bad guys or pull things off in a realistic way? I mean, Charlie's Angels with Cameron Diaz was freaking fun. And
Yeah.
she's wearing those Spider-Man underoos dancing in the one scene. I don't know if you remember what she says when the UPS guy shows up. If I'm not here, feel free to stick it in my slot.
Oh, yes. Yeah, yeah.
That,
Oh,
that
yeah, dude. Yeah, yeah.
paraphrasing that line. It's not the exact
They
line.
would never do that shit nowadays.
No, but like they should do that shit nowadays because who
100%.
went, who went to see Madam Web? Well, nobody except the curious. Women didn't turn up. Men were like, "Oh, this movie's not for me. It's another one of those, feminist thing where I'm bad for even wanting to see it." Like, it's weird. It's weird how they just can't seem to figure any of this out. But like a Charlie's Angels type of movie with a bunch of superhero like Spider Women that's terrible, like Electro Woman and Dinah Girl. I know, old reference, no one knows it. A shout out to the 199, and all the bros and chikes in the chat.
God.
But that would have been a fun movie. I'm looking at the very end that there's that flashback, and you predicted it actually. You're the one that predicted it exact dead on. Like that's all you're gonna see in the trailer, and that was it. And those costumes weren't terrible. They looked digital. Am I wrong? Were they
I think they
digital?
were real.
Some
Like
of them?
I saw a behind the scenes shot of Sydney Sweeney and hers, and how they did the upside down, like coming down from the web thing. So the costumes are real. I don't know why they bothered making them because they're never in them. But
Right,
you're right.
right.
What I
Ridiculous.
said when we were first reacting to the trailer was I said every time you see them in their suits, it's that like fuzzy, weird look, like it looks like it's a vision of something that could happen. And I was like, how fucking stupid is it going to be? And I think it's a possibility. I said, how stupid is it going to be if that's the only time we actually see them in their suits, is some sort of future and it doesn't actually happen in this movie? And that's exactly what they fucking did. It's
Yeah.
wild, dude.
No, that's
Um,
exactly. But I would have watched a movie that is incredibly stupid about a Madam Web in a wheelchair with 80s glasses, um, like directing these girls. That would have been kind of fun. Like what? I don't understand why you.
the problem is you have like, I think for that type of movie, you have to have a universe built out a little bit because there has to be like some sort of purpose for like what she's doing and she's directing this kind of grand scheme, right? Because she can see she's trying to guide people towards a future like for a reason, right? Whether it's because some threat that they have to combat or whatever. I could buy that. And I think that that was fucking cool. I think the other thing you could have done with this movie specifically is don't even pretend like it's a fucking superhero movie. Make it a Final Destination horror type movie.
Mhm.
And I think that could have worked really well. You wouldn't have needed fucking $100 million to do it either. I think that could easily have been something that worked and was better and was different. And I would have like bought into as opposed to what they tried to do.
Yeah, but I don't know.
And also all of the fucking like deaths that they had, they were all in the trailer.
Yeah, exactly.
Everything, every time you saw her seeing the girls dying and like resetting was in the fucking trailer, basically, like from what I can remember. So you didn't even have a lot of that in the movie, just what you saw in the trailer.
Yeah, well, at least they were dancing at that diner on the table. I don't know where that came from. That was like, what?
Yeah, and it also feels weird because they're like, you've got these girls who are all in their like mid 20s, but you're having them play like 18-year-olds. And I don't know, Sydney Sweeney didn't look like Sydney Sweeney. It was just weird.
She did not. Did you see that movie, Anyone But You?
I haven't seen that's one with Glenn Powell, right? I
Yeah,
haven't
yeah,
seen it
yeah.
yet. I've heard great things about it. And it's doing really well at the box office. But I mean,
It
I'm not really a rom com. Like, I don't know if I'm going to go to a rom com by myself, kind of guy. You know?
Yeah, that would be weird. But
Yeah.
look, it's a super dumb rom-com that has nudity, which Sydney Sweeney's not nude, but she's in the shower. So you get like, not to get technical or Mr. Skin like, but there is side boob. So you see she's like naked, but kind of anyways, it's good. It's good. And it's I don't know, it's like a throwback. A lot of these movies I'll see like that one is an anomaly, and it's like, oh, that's a movie from 10 years ago. How did this get through? Whereas like modern Hollywood is so bad, they've made up rules that they seem to have to follow. Like, we were talking before you and I went live about all the DEI nonsense and how like the HR department is trying to dictate what types of jokes you can say. I mean, look, I think F off. Like, we had my buddy Jim Agnew's a screenwriter he's a WGA screenwriter, and he was just like, this is dystopian. This is madness. This is, you're allowing the people from the HR department who have no experience in film, no sense of film history. They've never made a movie trying to tell creatives what they can and can't do. And I like to think that like some people are just like, yeah, I'm just not going to follow these rules. But you see, like, this is why a lot of the content sucks. It's all related to all these crazy rules that dictate things. It's like, did you see that movie ISS, International Space Station?
No, I did not.
Yeah. Okay. I see everything. Sorry.
Yeah, you do.
Somebody has to. But like, as soon as I saw the lead character was like this black lesbian woman, I'm like, oh, she's not gonna die. Like, no
She's
peril.
protected.
She's protected. And of course, I'm right. Like, that's never wrong. It's so easy to predict that it's just boring. I mean, not that like some of the old tropes weren't bad, fine, but like they've created new ones that are just as bad as the ones that, I don't know. I just think it's lame. It's freaking lame.
Well, like Anyone But You is an R-rated romantic comedy that cost
Yeah.
$25 million to make. It's crossed, I believe, $200 million of the global box office, or at least is headed there. Like, that's a massive smash hit for them. Like, for the studio, not for the theaters. The theaters are fucking suffering right now. January and February are awful. Like, to put it in perspective, this weekend, as bad as Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania was, that debuted to $109 million opening weekend, if I remember right. Add up everything that's come out this in this same weekend, and I think it's around $75 million domestic box office. Like, compared to Ant-Man, it's by itself $100 million. Now, that movie lost money for Disney, But when you're a theater chain, you don't give a fuck whether these companies are making money or losing money. You care about the money that's coming in to your theater. And right now, there's not a lot that's getting people out there.
Well, you need butts and seats. I think Dune is going to change that. I think Dune Part 2 is going to get a lot of people. Already the pre-sales are amazing for it. It's doing pretty well. I don't know. I'm sure there'll be some predictions, but I don't know that it's going to be. I think it's going to do well for the time it's coming out, but I don't know.
I'm sitting there and thinking like $700 million or something.
Yeah,
would be like, I think that would be like, I would see that and be like, okay, it did good. Because I just think it's a little too niche for the idea of it like being a massive blockbuster $1 billion. I just think it's too niche for that. I don't think anyone should expect something like that. And that's why they didn't spend $250 million making it, right? The first one was 160 million. This one I think is in a similar range.
Yeah, it's similar range, but
which is what you have to do. Which it's amazing that it looks as good as it does, while the Marvels spent twice as much money.
That's because, hey, there's I did a video on it, but there's this mini documentary on the Toho official Godzilla channel. It's a 6-minute behind the scenes showing how the director made Godzilla -1 for so cheap. And it's literally, to me, it's like an FU to Hollywood about how Hollywood's process and how they do things. And it shows, so he says, normally this is how you make a Hollywood movie. And it's like the director's here, then you see the VFX team here, and then there's all these middle people. He takes this napkin and folds it, and it's like the director just worked.
Like accordions it up. Yeah.
Accordions it up, but you got to see the video. It's like 6 minutes, and it shows like, and they were all in one room, all the effects guys, 35 people. The director was like in this like rolling chair that just sort of rolled around between the teams. And he talked about like how they did it cheap, how like it was practical sets, but mixed with, they would extend the set and make it like, so they're on this huge boat, right? Or huge aircraft carrier, whatever. Like it was crazy. So it's just a little, and to me, that's their little lobby to get the Oscar for best visual effects, which is the only Oscar it's nominated for. But it shows you the bloat in Hollywood. And why are VFX so bad? It's because the director has to have a direct connect with the VFX team. Not only that, the director has to know how to critique visual effects. I had a buddy who used to work at ILM. He did some effect shots for a project I did years ago. His whole job, he has one job. When a digital character like Jar Jar touches a surface, it has to look like he actually touched the surface. So shadows, weight, like real physics. And the thing is I feel like Marvel's gone so off the rails. All that stuff is just bad. It's just bad. It's being done by, they need like so many teams and so much middle management bloat that it just, all VFX are terrible now. Look at Madam Web. I mean, or just any of these recent things. And you have to have an involved director. Denis Villeneuve, involved director directly with the VFX pre-vising stuff. Same thing with the director of Godzilla -1. If you need a director that knows how to do that, Spielberg actually is very good at that. Spielberg, and also Chris Nolan, who never uses digital effects unless there's no other way to achieve it. So if you look at the old, like the Dark Knight trilogy, he used bigatures mostly and models. You wouldn't even be able to tell. So, yeah. Sorry, I know too much about stupid shit. So.
I see virtual reality is Dune. The first Dune only made $400 million at the box office. That's true. It was also released on the same day on HBO Max,
which is pretty good for that.
And post, like, this was just coming out of COVID a little bit. And if you look at the other things that were released exclusively on HBO Max and what they did in the theaters, Wonder Woman 1984, Suicide Squad, all those things that had day and date releases, it made like 3 times as much as those movies did. So it's going to be interesting to see what the second one does now that it's not also released on a streaming service at the same fucking time.
Well, what's interesting is I was talking earlier about the cast and the interviews that they've been doing.
I would stay away from Josh Brolin if I was Timothy Chalamet. Just saying.
But the funny thing is they seem like they're having such a good time. And I'm thinking, why is this familiar? Why is this familiar? It reminds me of all the junkets and interviews that were done by the cast of the Lord of the Rings movies. They had such a good, it was like the Lord of the Rings, they're like having such a good time. They all became friends. They all like, and also similar with Marvel. When you'd see like an Avengers junket, they're obviously having a good time. They became genuine friends in real life, with the exception of, when we finally got to Endgame, excuse me, with Brie Larson, you know,
Yeah, that she didn't quite fit in with that crew, huh?
she didn't fit in with that crew, but it's like the actors know when they've been in a good movie and they know when they're promoting a bad movie. They just know. And there's a really great behind the scenes of Oppenheimer. If you've got the Blu-ray or whatever, it's a documentary, and you see they talk to the cast, and the guy who played Solo in the Han Solo movie, what's his name?
Alden Ehrenreich.
Alden Ehrenreich. I never remember that dude's name. He's like, he's totally talking about Star Wars. You got to find this clip. Gary, use it in one of your videos or whatever.
Talking about like what a good time he had with this as opposed to making Star Wars.
No, he never says the word Star Wars, but it's like, it's really good to be on a movie where it's good instead of promoting something that is not great. And it's like, he overtly, he's definitely talking about, he must have had a terrible experience. The guy's a pro, never said anything directly, but really interesting stuff.
Well, there you go. I'm looking forward to Dune. Madam Web was a fucking disaster. Let's catch up with some of these super chats. Occam's Razor Ramon for 10. Hey, Chris, whatever happened to the old man that used to write for Film Threat? His name was Archibald Arch something. His wife's name was Toots. He was hilarious.
I don't know. Oh my God. That's from a long time. I think that was when Film Threat was a print magazine. I don't know. I mean, I know who that is, but yeah.
Probably dead.
Who knows? But yeah. Film Threat's gone through many various media phases in its life, which is really weird to think.
It's been around. It's been around for a long time.
Yeah.
Wesley for 5. We're celebrating Washington's birthday. Enough of this President's Day propaganda bullshit. Thank you, Wesley. Tim P, member for 10 months. Look up Dune 1984 Alternative Edition Redux for an excellent fan edit. It's really well done. Great for anyone who can't get enough Dune.
I have seen that. Look up the Spice Diver cut. It's 3 hours. It's all the deleted scenes. And the guy who did it actually finished visual effects that were not finished. Like I still have the Japanese laser disc of Dune 1984. That's what a nerd I am. But like that cut that he's talking about, the Spice Diver cut, look up Spice Diver Dune 1984 4K. You'll find that cut. It's chef's kiss. It's so good.
That's cool. Filthy Casual for 5. The stream looks like Ryan's. I think I said this one. That Chris is an older version of me. Blood Guilty Gaming, member for 2 months. In the new X-Men, Wolverine has butt sex with Morph. Can't wait for that.
Oh, that X-Men stuff pisses me off. Does that piss you off?
I liked the cartoon. I was not like obsessed with it or anything, but so it doesn't piss me off as much. It pisses off some people, but certainly if you're like attached to it, and the reason they're doing X-Men 97, the reason they're not doing X-Men A New Adventure with gay weirdos or whatever, like they're not doing an original thing because they want it to be attached to the original to give people that nostalgia so more people actually tune in and pay attention to it. So whenever you have a pre-established thing like that and you go changing shit, people are going to be fucking pissed, rightfully so.
Well, it's not so just that, like, and look, I was a very casual viewer of the old X-Men cartoonists. It's like, I love that music. It's like cool to see the characters, but I wasn't dedicated to it. It was like a little past my prime, so to speak. But
I was more into Batman animated series than I was to X-Men. Yeah.
Some Batman animated series, some of the origins, the villains, the fact that it was like ongoing story, it was epic. That all the whole look, the 40s look, and the visual style, it's pretty awesome. But this whole idea of like the X-Men were always queer is effing lame. The reason the X-Men is so popular is because anyone can relate to the X-Men because it's about misfits. It's about, at some point in everyone's life, you feel like a misfit, whatever. And I feel like that is just broadly appealing. But the fact that it's like, no, they've always been queer. Someone made a list. This was so irritating. Someone made a list of all the different X-Men characters and put what their sexuality was. And everyone was like pansexual, bisexual. I'm just like, it is creepy. It's just, I think it's creepy I don't even remember as a kid even thinking about stuff like that. All I thought about was I understood because they were teenagers. They were teenage superheroes who felt awkward and they were outsiders and misfits. That's very relatable to anyone.
It's just the same shit, right? It's like all this,
Yeah.
oh, it was very queer coded. These fucking people with pronouns in their bios whose entire identity is based off a flag or telling people that they're fucking gay or who they want to fuck, like all
Right.
that shit. They always look at things and try to contextualize it in a different way to be like, well, you know, this thing that came out in the 80s, really, it wasn't acceptable to come out as like this or that. So this is what it really meant. It was very queer coded. This is supposed to represent gay people. Or when people are talking about the Little Mermaid being a trans allegory, you know, like shit like that. It's the same type of thing. And people obviously have attached a lot of that to X-Men, whether it's the oh, you know, it's supposed to represent Malcolm X and Martin Luther King Jr., even though Stan Lee himself came out and said, I never had that in mind. I never had racism in mind, anything like that when I was creating the X-Men. It's just, it's stuff that's been put on it. And I can get how that would be convincing if you knew nothing about it, how it could be very easy to convince people that this is actually what they represent or represented. But it's just not the case. It's just what weirdos have tried to make it out to be.
And look, I have no problem with someone who is gay saying, well, I relate to this character because of what they're going through, whatever. There's no problem with that. But to try to make it exclusionary, like this can only be this, and anyone else who thinks otherwise is wrong. It's like, no. You don't get to do that.
It's also kind of like weird if you think that anytime there's a story about someone being strange or different, that it just must mean they like to fuck dudes. It's like kind of you admitting that you think that that's strange. You know, that's a you thing, I guess. But it's weird how that works. Burrito Man Mister, member for 5 months, 199. Thank you. Bert for 5. How is it the G&G guys who make a big fuss about celebrating their birthday month host a weekly show called High Tea Thursdays? What a bunch of chikes. Thank you, Bert. Indiana Solo for 10. Thanks to Disney, my name is now completely ruined. I just want to say you guys are awesome, especially you, Ryan. Your positivity helps me get up every morning. P.S. Love Jay. Jeremy plus Frank Gore. Good. Well, thank you, Indiana Solo. I'm glad my positivity can inspire people. Wolf Vermillion. Madam Web killed the Justice League. What a disaster. Yes. Chikara, member for 8 months. I'm looking forward to Uncle Rai back on Tuesday night's main event. Chikara, you're gonna have to do a lot of work to get me on Tuesday night's main event. Okay, I don't see that happening.
So you're not doing Tuesday night's main event anymore?
No, I haven't done it for like a long ass time. Basically, since we started daily, I kind of moved off Tuesday night's main event because it's like, fuck, I'm the one that, well, except tomorrow, which is my day off for daily. I set up the stream and I do all the fucking shit. So yeah, Tuesday's main event, that's a lot of work.
There you go.
You know, I don't want to read super chats. Like, it's basically what I do here anyway. You didn't tell me I got to do it on main event as well.
That's Beardo's job. He's very good at reading.
That's what they say. That's what they say. Yeah. I did want to get into something else though, especially while we have Frank Gore here, and it's all about Disney. It's all about Disney because, ironically, when Elon Musk tweeted out the leaked kind of standards that Disney has for diversity, equity, inclusion, that wasn't really a secret, that was kind of open, it was on their website that people had known about for a while, it created a lot of bad attention for Disney because some people had no idea that was going on. Some people had no idea there's literally check boxes for what you can get made at Disney. And really, the same thing goes for the entire entertainment industry. But it really got a lot of people's attention when America First Legal actually filed a discrimination complaint against Disney over the leaked inclusion standards. I thought this was the perfect time to talk about this because we have Chris Gore here on the channel. And Film Threat, ironically, has been talking about this very same thing, specifically when it comes to Disney and specifically in the animation department. It kind of all started in the aftermath of the Wish disaster when Alan Ng of Film Threat called it out for being really bad. And a lot of animators within Disney animation studios reached out to you guys. And they had an interesting story to tell.
Yeah, well, a lot of it had to do with the fact that like the whole company's been taken over by activists. It's not like this thing where it's like management is dictating. No, the rot is from the bottom up. And in particular with middle management, as the D-Files part actually is the series that Alan Ing has been doing. The D-Files part 3 dropped. Part 4 will be dropping in a couple weeks, but it's basically telling the story of how this all happened, starting with the ousting of John Lasseter, to all these rules, to then Disney going out in the latest edition of the D-Files. Alan reveals how they found so many of these new artists were through Tumblr. Now, if you know anything about Tumblr and what the attitude of people on Tumblr is, they were getting incredibly inexperienced people who put together decent portfolios. And it's one thing if you can mock a style, right? Like that does take some talent, but that doesn't mean you're ready to be an animator. So all these people that came in from Tumblr just hired their friends also from Tumblr. And their goal was to have 50% female animators with like 50% male animators, with the express goal of getting rid of, I hate to say it out loud, white males. Male and pale is stale.
Because it's one thing to bring in all these other people, but you've still got this backlog of actually talented people who know what they're doing, have been there a long time, who happen to be white men. And so that's what you had to do to get that 50%. You had to force a lot of them out.
Which is what they did. And it's just sort of sad to see, because there's a whole, and even he goes into it where just like there's a mentoring. You start at a certain level and then you work your way up. And this was, they hired a bunch of people who weren't ready and just had them do the job, talented or not. They just did it. And then you end up with something like Wish that, I don't know if you ever actually saw Wish. I did see it. Dude, it's so bad. I mean, it would be bad if you just put it on Disney Plus. You'd think, why did I waste my time? It's this sort of digital looking animation, but it's sort of a mix of 2 and 3D, this weird, cheap style. And they have this like weird rules that it's just like, look, you can't, as an animator, animate anything that doesn't match the identity of the character you're animating. Right.
Jesus.
No, this is a real thing. So like, if you look at, have you seen, there's like a really funny photo of a little promotional photo for the movie Wish. And it's all the different characters and all the word that comes to mind. What is the word that comes to mind when you look at this picture? Starts with a D.
Diversity.
Exactly. It's literally, if you look up in the dictionary, that D word is right there. But it's such a generic version. It's so weird. Like Disney just doesn't know how to do that well, where it doesn't seem false, fake, and forced.
It's when you, even the idea of going to Tumblr and finding these people, it's one thing to find people. There could be a lot of talented people, but they might have no idea how to work in a professional environment, how to work in that setting, how to, hit deadlines, all these things that are very important when you're at a studio and you're handing out these types of assignments and this type of work and shit like that. You combine that with the fact that a lot of these people are probably just mentally fucking ill. Like that is not a good environment. And that's why we've seen the complete and total failure of Pixar and Disney animation studios. All these things have come crashing down because the people that they're hiring have no idea what they're doing. And that whole thing that Elon tweeted out just drew so many people's attention to the fact that, yes, they are illegally discriminating against people, specifically white men. They have been for years, but it's not just a Disney thing. It's an everybody thing. That's Hollywood. That's what it's been for the past several years.
Yeah, it's just really sad to see this downfall. And what's weird is that like, maybe a year ago, Alan would be accused of being a Disney shill because he is a legit like Disney fanatic. He knows everything about Disney, had an annual pass for years, no longer. It went to like the Walt Disney's home, like visited the Disney Museum in the Bay Area. Like he's read tons of books on Disney. He's taken animation. He's taken like the animation class you can take, which is like, I think it's in Disney World in Florida, or Disney. It's Disney World, right? So in Florida. So yeah, so he knows this stuff, but like he laid out like, I can't wait. Can't wait for part 4.
Part 4 to drop. There you go. So stay tuned to Film Threat. You guys are covering it on the YouTube channel and on the Film Threat website for all the D-Files. It goes into detail from a lot of these people that are speaking out to Film Threat, because not a lot of other people are listening right now when it comes to what's going on behind the scenes at Disney.
Yeah, that's what's kind of pathetic and sad is like you would think that this would be a story that would be in one of the mainstream trade publications like The Reporter or Variety, The Wrap, one of those. But it's like, no, it's they don't feel comfortable reaching out to those outlets. So they're reaching out to us, having watched videos. So, I just, it sort of dropped in our lap, but we're going to keep covering it. But I really am interested to see what happens with this lawsuit, because it is clear cut discrimination. It is discrimination, is in particular based on certain laws in the state of California. So I've been following like Legal Mindset and your twin Nick Rekieta.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you guys could be brothers practically, with the exception of the nose.
You could be my uncle. Yeah. You could be my uncle, maybe.
Yeah. With the
But
exception
yes.
of the nose. I think
his schnoz is a little longer than mine. That's for sure.
Yeah.
Shout out to Nick and Legal Mindset. Legal Mindset is doing some fucking anime streams and getting like 11,000 people watching or some shit.
It's
I don't know
crazy.
what the fuck he's talking about. I have no interest in it, but shout out to him. Like some random fucking like anime Japan lawsuit. I don't know what the fuck he's covering.
Yeah.
But shout out to him. He's had some big streams over the past couple days.
Yeah. No, love Andrew. It's great.
Stephen Wasik for 20. Film threat doing the D-Files. Chris, as a normal, sane person, please set the deranged anti-Semite straight. Tell everyone Bob Iger's not Jewish. There's no Zionist cabal propping up Disney. Need a voice of reason here.
Oh, I don't know anything about that. Really? I don't know. I know he was a weatherman. I think he's good at buying things. I think he's terrible at running a company.
I didn't think Bob Iger's Jewish. I don't know if he's Jewish. I don't think he is, but I'm not too worried about it though. But thank you, Stephen. Occam's Razor Ramon for 10. I read Film Threat all the time back when it was a print magazine. I even remember when it switched to color. Trees Lounge was on the cover. I assume Arch wasn't really an old man. Who is he?
He's a buddy of mine from Michigan. He's a buddy of mine from Michigan. But yeah, it was just like some people wanted to have more freedom and would just write under pseudonyms. So, but yeah, no, the print magazine, it's weird. I don't have all the issues of a magazine that I was the publisher of and started from when I was a kid. I had to buy some off eBay from London, an issue that I just didn't have any copies of. Because some of the issues we only printed like 1,000 copies of. So they are kind of rare. So that's kind of cool. Thank you for reading for that long. You must be effing old. That's all I'm going to say, like me.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
Blood Guilty Gaming for 2. I think you already said this, but Morph has butt sex with Wolverine, the new X-Men. Thank you. That Showbiz member for 8 months, 199. Nut Bunny for 35. South African. Maybe she smiled after becoming disabled because she finally transabled and finally got her wish.
That was so weird. Like the ending, she's like, all, because she's like a curmudgeon through the whole movie. She just doesn't want to be around people. She's annoyed. It's somebody's birthday.
And after the finale, her tone completely shifts. She's like,
right.
I'm happy because I'm surrounded by my girls. And it's so weird. Like the shift in her. Again, I think a lot of this is probably fucking edited to hell and like reshot, but it is really strange.
But I'm paralyzed from the waist down and blind, but I'm happy.
Yeah.
What? It was just weird. It felt weird.
I'm never going to have children, and that's okay. She hated kids, by the way.
Right,
it's like
right.
part of her character.
Yeah, it just didn't seem real. Even like, okay, before it's like, okay, that's.
Hey, if a Pepsi sign falls on you, you might change too, Chris.
Oh my God, how dumb is that a Pepsi sign? Ugh.
Did you see I gotta pull it up real quick if I can. I saw it when I was in the theaters and I thought the editing looked weird, but also when like you can't rewind or whatever, you never quite fucking know. Oh yeah, I found it. The way he dies, Ezekiel, like at the end, it's so fucking weird. And it looked strange to me. And I finally got somebody ripped a part of it and put it out here. I won't play the whole thing because I don't want to get hit. But when he falls, when he falls, oh, fucking Twitter, don't do this shit, you fucking cocksucker.
Oh my God.
I hate when Twitter does this.
Oh my God.
All right, him falling. Now, it's falling on him and what? Like, he turns to cover his head, right? He turns to cover his head. But then watch when they snap back in the next edit, his face is like looking straight up somehow. Watch this. You know what I mean? Like, I saw that during the movie and I thought maybe I just fucking missed something, but it looks so weird because he like covers his face, right? Or tries to cover himself. But he's like looking dead ass straight up in the air, and literally 1 microsecond later,
it's unbelievable how much a professional sound mix will just cover visual things that your eyes just like, whatever, it's weird.
It's so fucking stupid. Lord Botha for 5, with the Grand Tour coming to an end soon and the new crew supposedly taking over. I just want to say, if they aren't Jeremy, Ryan, and Jay, we riot. I've never watched Grand Tour. I know Gary's a big fan. I've never seen it though. So, Bruce, member for 11 months. It's awesome seeing Chris here, but disappointing he didn't sing at the start. Got to step up as Jay's replacement. Jay doesn't even sing anymore.
Sing? What would I sing? And why would I want to put you through that? Like,
exactly.
I care about my audience.
See, Chris fucking gets it.
Yeah, I'm not gonna do anything. I'm not gonna do anything too annoying other than play with Dune toys.
There you go. Grafweb for 2. For the love of God, cancel Disney Plus. Thank you, Grafweb. Lord Botha for 199. The only one I'm certain is gay in life is Jeremy. Blood Guilty Gaming for 2. Sorry, I said it twice. It's just really disturbing. Yes, butt sex between Morph and Wolverine would be disturbing. Joshua Henderson for 199. Disney just can't make anything that isn't gay. Taker for $5. J.K. Rowling is famously outspoken on not being a fan of X-Men. But by the way, Bausch and Shank Uyghur are starting a new podcast called The Horse Humpers. Thank you. Sir Hat for 2. Can Chris sing?
No, like I say, I'm doing you a favor.
See?
So, yeah, I'm not gonna sing.
Bert for 199. Hopefully Rogue gets a BBL in the new X-Men show. Maybe that's her journey.
That's a weird thing with Hollywood to like just desexualize all women, and then they show up on red carpets. Look at Zendaya or like Anya Taylor-Joy. We see they totally slutted up on the red carpet, and no one is complaining. And this is the choice of the women themselves saying, I'm going to wear this designer thing, whatever. The Madam Web red carpet, all these red carpets, they dress so hot, and then in the movies,
like they're attractive. You know, like Sydney Sweeney's a fucking bombshell. Now, I get it. Like, the thing is, if there had been more of Sydney Sweeney, as this future superhero, like in this skin tight suit or whatever, like, you probably get a lot out of that. But when you have her in her, like, one, they try to make them young because in the future they're superheroes. So she's like supposed to be 18 or whatever. It's kind of weird. But then also they do everything they can to make her not look like herself. And Dakota Johnson doesn't look particularly attractive in this entire movie either. Like, they do everything they can to make her not look very attractive. Yeah. And they see her on the red carpet, like willing to go 50 Shades of Web, but for some reason not in the movie.
Yeah, that's what's weird. And like, these women are choosing to dress this way. They know it helps. Hey, let those studio executives know, like, make women in movies sexy again. Sydney Sweeney gets it. Her company was one of the producers of that Anyone But You movie, right? Like, you might actually like it. You might actually like it, Ryan. Like, look, rom-coms are not my thing either, but it's not.
I like Glenn Powell.
He's great. It's raunchy. It looked
funny. Yeah.
It is funny. It's one of those things where you won't feel like you've completely wasted your time if you watch it,
LL Kool-Aid, Sweeney got a lazy eye. I don't give a fuck. My goal would be to get her to cross her eyes. All right. Like, I don't give a fuck about her lazy eye. Even if she has one or not, I don't know. Kudos to Chris's diplomacy towards Joe Russo after he gave into brainworms and went cry-harding on Twitter about bad film writing being criticized. A lot of people don't understand that that's not like Joe Russo. That's like Joe Russo.
Well, by the way, Joe Russo is supposed to be on the Film Threat livecast. Like, we do like filmmaker interviews and whatnot. So a couple weeks from now, he's actually supposed to be on my show, and we're going to interview him about some indie horror movie that he's a screenwriter, which is totally cool. Like, we do that stuff all the time. Here's a little indie movie. We're talking to the filmmakers. So I was like kind of surprised at his reaction. And look, I followed him and I was like, oh, you can, but his DMs are not open. And I said, look, just DM me. We can talk about it. Like, my whole thing with anything is let's have a conversation rather than like hyperbolic, whatever. And that whole thing with Chris Stuckman, I'm really looking forward to like discussing that today. We're Film Threat. We're launching a brand new show. We do live streams on Wednesdays and Fridays. And we're doing a new show tonight. It's called Versus. It's going to be me, Alaning, Baggage Claim is on it, Paulie from Latino Slant, Verbal Riot, Max Von Priestley is going to be, well, I'm not going to lie. It's a complete ripoff of FNT and Tuesday night's main event. It's a group show where we just talk about topics. Yeah, I'm going to rip it off. Yeah. I'm going to do my own version.
I don't believe we're the first ones to have massive panel shows. So I think you're okay. We haven't copyrighted it or anything.
Right. So it's Film Threat's version of a panel show. It's called Versus. We're going to talk about a lot of stuff, including the Stuckman thing. I just think it's kind of sad. Like, we'll get into it. That's a whole other topic. We start talking about that.
I don't particularly give too much of a fuck typically what other creators are taught, like how they do their reviews. I just don't. You know what I mean? Like, I focus on what I think about shit and what I say about shit. I give my opinions and I don't worry too much for the most part about other YouTubers and like whatever their opinions or non-opinions are. You know, that's just kind of how I approach it. But
and look, if
I also didn't like, I know a lot of people watched these guys for a long time, like the Collider guys, like, you know, Stuck, all this shit. I really didn't. So I don't have like this attachment to them at all, like the Campias of the world or whatever. Like, it's not like I was never watching those guys to begin with.
But I don't have a problem with him not wanting to review a movie. Like, I do recuse myself when I have a relationship with someone. I might interview a filmmaker. It's like I can't review technically a movie where I've been friends with someone for 20 years in the indie film world, and then they make a movie. I'm like, well, I'm going to step back, or Alan can review it. Film Threat is a team of reviewers, so it's not a big deal. But I just think but I don't make a video about it saying, like, because that's the thing I think people have a problem with, is the fact that he made a video basically like he's doing a stand-up thing. Like, this is the thing I take issue with. I'm better than you because I'm doing this, because I understand how hard it is to make a movie. Can I tell you something? I've made movies. It's not that hard. It's not that hard. No, I'm being real here. It's not that hard to make a movie. You can do it. I've also written books. It's not that hard to write a book. I can, it's not that hard to do all this stuff. You just need to do, it's like here's the thing. You don't write a book. You write a page a day, and you do that for 2 months and you'll have a book. There, I just showed you how to write a book. Now there's a little bit more to it than that, but like, all this stuff is not that difficult. That's what I'm trying to show with the Film Threat channel is I bring on these filmmakers and they're like, my buddy Jim Agnew, he used to write for Film Threat in the early 2000s. We'd go to Sundance. We'd get like a big condo. There'd be like 8 dudes in a condo, drinking light beer at like 8 a.m. Not a joke, by the way. Writing reviews, going to parties, seeing movies. And Jim was one of those dudes. And he's like, I've met these filmmakers. They're not that smart. I think I'm going to start making movies. He started writing scripts. He ended up working with Dario Argento. He made a movie with Nick Cage. Like, and this is my buddy. And so 20 years ago, he's writing for Film Thread. Now he's a producer and he's in the Writers Guild. Like, this stuff isn't that hard. So when I hear someone like Stuckman bitch about how difficult it is to make a film, I'm like, F you. You should be telling people, if I did it, you can do it. And that's my point with Film Threat, which is why I bring on these filmmakers. Like, okay, ask them questions. What's your question to this person? The only thing is they didn't quit, right? Like, because some of these filmmakers, it takes them like 10 years to make a movie. Fine, it took you 10 years. You made it. It's all about dedication with anything. Like you go to the gym, right? You don't get in shape in one day. You get in shape over like 6 months, right? Like, that's just, to me, with anything, it's dedication, it's discipline. You're doing this every other day, whatever it is. Same with writing a book, making a movie, doing a comic book, all this stuff. That's the thing I take issue with, and that I'm better than you because I'm going to ignore this movie. I'm going to ignore this film because people work so hard. That's every movie. No one tries to make a bad film, but it happens. It does happen. So I don't know. I just think he's That's what I think people are reacting to.
My whole thing when it comes to any type of criticism or praise, if you're not willing to criticize something or say something is bad, then your praise means nothing. Right? If you're not willing to talk about it when something is bad, then you praising something means fucking nothing. And it's tough for me to take people's opinions anyway. And again, the inverse is true. If you feel like someone that they truly, it's not their real opinion, they're just shitting on things to shit on things, that becomes a problem too when it comes to validity and like trusting those people. I try to give my genuine opinion, regardless of whether I think people in the chat will agree with me or not, whether I think the co-host will agree with me or not, because that's what you have to do.
Right.
Now, it turns out that I don't like a lot of the things I've seen lately, but the things I do like, I'll tell you about it. Yes, me and Gary, whenever fucking Game of Thrones or House of the Dragon gets brought up, we'll fucking go on about House of the Dragon, even though nobody else on the panel fucking cares for a while, right? Because we fucking love that shit. We did a Reacher stream because we love that shit. So that's how it has to be.
Yeah.
But let me a last couple super chats and then we'll wrap it up. Darth
Cool.
Racer, go ahead.
No, cool, man. Let's go.
Sorry. Let's go. Darth Racer for 5, was Captain Nemo an anti-hero or a villain? Anti-hero. I feel like he was kind of provoked, right?
Yeah, that makes sense.
Well, he was attacked, right? And then he like kind of went nuts. Anti-hero. It's been a really long time since I fucking covered some of that shit. Or read some of that shit. Taker for 2. Pepsi. Why not Orange Crush soda?
Oh,
made more sense.
Better. Orange Crush.
D what? Member for a month. You guys are doing the Lord's work. I don't know about that, but hey. PJH for 5. I've heard of making her curl her toes, but cross her eyes. What the fuck? Hey, cross them, roll them in the back of her head, whatever. You know. Anyway, that's all I've got. Chris, where can people find you?
Film Threat. Go to Film Threat YouTube channel and check out tonight versus 3 p.m. Pacific time, 6 p.m. Eastern time. It's Film Threat's panel show. We're going to do Mondays. Why am I doing Mondays? Because no one else is doing Mondays. Tuesday night's main event. Friday's FNT. I'm trying to schedule my stream so I'm not in conflict with shows that I watch. Right.
Yeah, it's hard sometimes.
So Monday afternoon, join us this afternoon, 6 hours. We're going live. We're doing it. So
there
and
thanks
for having me on. I initially looked at it, I'm like, I want to do this. That's right.
It's really fucking early.
But it's always good because like I'm watching anyways. So I'm in the chat, like whatever, while I'm getting my coffee. So good to hang out with you, Ryan. I love your anger and honesty.
Hey, all I can be is myself. So if that's all I have to offer the world is anger and honesty, then that's what I'll continue to do. But we'll be back. Jeremy will be back tomorrow. I don't know exactly who will co-host because Jay won't be here, but we'll find that out tomorrow. There'll be a mystery until then. Big shout out to Chris Gore. Follow Film Threat on Twitter. Follow Chris Gore on Twitter. Follow Film Threat on YouTube. And we will talk to you later.
Later.